Hey everyone, my name is Brady Whitten, and I welcome you to the Mid-City Sermoncast for this week. So this week I'm starting a new series called So the World Will Know. And we're going to explore how we, the church, are called to bring a gospel of hope and love to a hurting world, and how you and I can be a part of that. And the series title comes from scripture in John 17, verse 23, where Jesus prays for his followers to be united so that the world may know God's love. So let's dive in. Have you ever noticed how something as simple as a little light can completely change the atmosphere in a room? So when I was a kid, I went through a time where I was like terrified of the dark. I was convinced that there were like monsters under my bed, that there were ghosts all over the place. I lived in my grandparents' house for a little while, and they had those radiators that would come on, and they would pop and creak, and I was convinced that there were things like walking around in my bedroom. But one day, my mom put a little night light in my room, and just that little bit of light, those little tiny bulbs, like made a huge difference in that room. And light kind of has that effect in the darkness, doesn't it? So in the fifth chapter of the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus says a little something about light. This is the 14th through the 16th verses. Jesus says this: "You are the light of the world. A city built on a hill cannot be hid. No one, after lighting a lamp, puts it under a bushel basket, but on a lampstand, so that it gives light to the whole house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father in heaven." So Jesus tells us that we are the light of the world. And one of the things I want you to note is this: he doesn't say you have the light or that you need to become the light. He really tells us that we are the light. It's not something we earn. It's not something we achieve. It's part of our identity as children of God and as followers of Christ. And he tells us that it's our job, it's kind of our responsibility to reflect that light into a world where there is a lot of darkness, right? He also goes on to make sure to know that the light that we have within us isn't meant to be hidden. He says that no one lights a lamp and then puts it under a bushel, right? Like you wouldn't like light something and then cover it up. That kind of defeats the purpose. He says light is meant to shine, to illuminate, and to guide. And in the same way, he says we're to let our light shine through our actions and our deeds, so that others may glorify God. Like they're supposed to see God in us and God reflecting into the world through us. C.S. Lewis says this. He says, "Don't shine so that others will see you. Shine so that others through you will see God." That's the idea here. So I really think that as a church, this is something that we do really well. So we have a ministry that we call First Tuesday, and it was kind of interesting to me this past week. On Election Day, First Tuesday came together, and what they do is there's a group of volunteers that come together on the first Tuesday, and they go out and they volunteer in people's homes and other places around the community, again, as a way of letting their light shine, right? So on Election Day, we had over 60 volunteers go out into the community. They worked in several different locations, but in particular, they worked on 5 people's homes that just needed some minor home repair. One of the volunteers, named Chris Spencer, said this about the place that he worked. He said, "The homeowner who cares for her invalid mother and a special needs daughter was so appreciative of the new cabinets and a door that we put on her house that she said will help keep out the critters and the weather." He said at the end of their time working with her that she hugged them and she told them that she loved them. And Chris said, "I hope we brought some light and hope to her and helped to lighten her situation. And our church is involved in all kinds of places and all kinds of ways where we try to shine that light into the world. So that was on election day. I was also really pleased the day after the election when many people were wondering, what do we do? What do we say? That I saw multiple church members on social media put pictures of their Love Your Neighbor signs, which we had given out and encouraged people to put in their yards in different places. But again, it kind of touched my heart to know that they understood Jesus' message about sharing love with their neighbors and that they were sharing that message with the community around them, right? And this is a way of being light on a day that was hard for a lot of people. So our church community does shine the light of Christ into the world, and you as part of our church community shine light into this world. But the only way that this can really happen is when you and I actively and intentionally participate in supporting the work of the church. And in the United Methodist Church, when we talk about how we support the church, we tend to talk about 5 different things. We talk about supporting the church with our prayers, with our presence, with our gifts, with our service, and then with our witness. And over the next couple of weeks, we're going to be talking about how do we do that as disciples of Jesus, and are going to be invited to think about and reflect on how we can kind of commit ourselves to some of these practices. So over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be talking about something known as a discipleship covenant. And this discipleship covenant kind of takes us through each one of those promises or those pledges and asks us to think about, all right, how am I going to do that? How am I going to engage in this, especially in the upcoming year? So this form will be available online. There's a digital version of this, and then we'll also have it available for our large group worship on December. It's the first Sunday in December. So again, if you get to look at this form, you'll see on here that there's a place that talks about prayers, like how often will you pray in support of the ministries of the church and support of your other church members? Are you going to pray daily? Are you going to do it once a week? What's your plan for prayer? In presence, we usually talk about being present in 2 different ways. One is to be present in your small group gathering, which I hope, if you're not a part of a small group, I hope you'll become a part of one. Will you meet with that group weekly, monthly? What are you going to do? What's your plan for that? How are you going to be present in worship? So, of course, with Mid-City Church, we gather for large group once a month. But I know some of you may worship in other places, in other ways. And so your option on the form is to say, yes, I'm going to worship that first Sunday of the month, but then I have other options too. We have a section on this form about your plan to give, and these are talking about financial gifts. What's your plan for that? What's your plan for serving? How often you will participate in service and missions? Is that weekly, bi-weekly, monthly? And then finally, your plan to be a witness. I'll tell you, when I think about witnessing, I think one of the easiest ways that you can do that is by inviting people to be a part of small group. Invite people to be a part of a large group. It's just that's a pretty low pressure, easy way to witness to the world. But what we're asking people to do is fill this out, make your commitment, and this is really just between you and God. And so if you do it online, you'll get this back in an email format. If you turn it in worship, we're not going to look at these, but we'll give you an opportunity to present them at the altar, and then we'll mail them back to you so that you have a copy of your commitment and your pledge. But I want to take just a moment and talk about giving. So people often have a lot of questions about giving, and I know, it's almost kind of a joke that people go, oh no, it's the church is going to start asking for my money again. But I want you to understand that financially supporting the things that we care about is one of the ways that we can make a great impact in the world, right? Maybe you care about the homeless. Maybe you care about giving to support a domestic violence shelter or the food bank or something like that. Giving is one of the ways that we can really show what we care about, right? And so if we care about Jesus and we care about this message of the gospel of love and hope that we're trying to send into the world, Do you support the church financially? And again, people have a lot of questions related to the practice of giving. And what I would ask you to do is kind of think about where you are on this path. And here's the path I want to lay out for you. The first place I think we start as givers is to be an intentional giver. And all that means is simply, have you ever thought about how much you give or what you're going to give? And have you actually kind of come up with a plan for that, right? To say, hey, look, I'm going to give $25 a month, right? And that's different from just saying, hey, here comes the offering plate. I'm going to drop a few dollars in there, right? Like I'm intentionally going to give, let's say, again, that $25 a month. Will you take that step to become an intentional giver? I think the second place on that path is then to become what's known as a proportional giver. So a proportional giver is a person who's saying, look, I'm going to give with intention, I'm planning to give, but now I'm going to give in proportion to my income. And so let's say you make $40,000 a year, and you're going to say, look, I'm going to give 1% of that, or I'm going to give 2% of that. And again, if your income then goes up, so your giving goes up proportionally. Does that make sense? And I think that what people often ask, well, what does the Bible say about giving? If there's one clear standard in the Bible for giving, it's a standard that's known as the tithe. And the word tithe literally means a tenth. And so if you think about that proportional giving again, if I want to be a tither and I want to get to that biblical standard, then I'm going to work on giving a tenth. But I do want to say this. I realize if you're not a person who's used to giving proportionally or even intentionally, giving 10% might seem like a whole, like I can't do that, right? So what I would encourage you to do is just kind of pick a percentage that you're, I want to say comfortable, but I would encourage you push yourself a little bit, but give an amount that you're comfortable giving, and then move up towards that tithe. That's a practice a lot of people do. So again, you've got being an intentional giver, moving towards being a proportional giver. If you can get to a tithe, I think, again, for a lot of people, it's important to kind of reach that biblical standard. And then the fourth step on that path is to be what's known as an impact giver. And that's somebody who, you give a tithe, it's a normal part of your giving practice, but then maybe you think about other ways that you can really make an impact by giving to a special ministry. Or again, like I said, maybe you're going to give a gift to support a homeless shelter or something like that. So it's thinking beyond just even giving that 10%. This year, one of the things we're asking people to really pray about and consider is to make a recurring gift. And you can do that by going online to our website, where you can set up an automatic withdrawal where, again, every week it's going to be $25 or whatever that gift might be. But to take that step and really be intentional about doing a recurring gift. Anyway, I want to make sure you know that when you give, you're not just supporting a building, you're not just supporting programs, you really are supporting ministries that really touch people's lives. You are helping to feed the hungry, you're helping to care for the grieving, you're helping to mentor a young person, you're bringing the love and the light of Christ into a broken world. And every dollar that you give is a beam of light that illumines dark places. So I want you to think about this too, having just come out of a presidential election. We're in a season where the world feels really divided, right? Bruised by the chaos of a contentious election cycle. People are longing for hope. They're longing to believe in something real that can make a difference in the world. And I really think that the church and the cause of Christ is the thing that can do that. Who we are and what we do as the church matters. And together we can be a light that offers peace and love and healing in these turbulent times. Do you want to be a part of that? I really hope that you do. And if you do, I want you to think about what ways will you intentionally support the mission and the work of Jesus' church. So let's pray together. Lord, we thank you for calling us to be your light in the world. Help us to shine brightly, reflecting your love and grace in all that we do. Give us courage to support your work, to give generously, to give in all of the ways that point others to you. May our actions bring glory to your name and hope to those in need. Amen.
Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of the Mid-City Church Sermoncast. If you'd like to find a home sheet, a resource that accompanies the sermoncast that has more questions to explore, the scriptures we use today, and more information, you can visit our website, midcity.church/sermoncast. If you'd like to support Mid-City Church by giving, please text the word GIVE to 225-307-0662. Thank you for your generosity, and we look forward to seeing you next week.